this evening, but will stay dry. The low temp dips down to 41 tomorrow. The clouds stick around. We'll have more clouds than sunshine and a high temp of 67. Dry until Thursday or Friday with a nice weekend shaped up with temps in the low 70s and mostly sunny skies. I'm Brian Leonard with your on point local weather.
Answering the call. Running in when everything you feel says run out. Pushing yourself beyond your known limits to help. Living to tell the story. Visit scvolunteerfire.org.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk Media Network here on a Monday night. Good to have you with us. This is a host-free Monday night once again, coming off the weekend. So shortly, we'll turn things over to you, hear what you have to say about the weekend and what is coming up. Phil Kornbluth and Pat Daniel here in Columbia. And we're joined by Chris Bergen, who tonight, he's left the comfy confines of the Berge Palace, and he's gone up to his upstate estate to
which is actually a nicer Berge Palace.
and preparing. He has to go up early to prepare to question Dabo Sweeney tomorrow.
This is true.
Yeah,
this is true. I wanted to listen to his coach's show tonight so I can get some comments from Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. No telling who you'll hear from on that. So we've got plenty to talk about. I was at where was I? I was at Clemson on Saturday, and Chris, you had Coastal. Smitty was at South Carolina and Vanderbilt, and I'm thinking Smitty will be joining us here in just a little bit. Otherwise, we will no Ernest tonight. Ernest has got basketball with South Carolina State. So we will discuss everything that went on over the weekend and then get to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. And, well, it was anything but a calm weekend and a calm day today in terms of the college football coaching world with Jimbo Fisher getting the axe at Texas A&M yesterday, and then Mississippi State firing their coach today before he even got through a full season. And, you know, I'm not surprised by any of this anymore. A few years ago, you'd be surprised and you'd roll your eyes and just talk about how crazy college athletics is, but it's just the norm now, and the desire to win and win big and win at all costs is overwhelming people in charge, and the payout that they're going to pay Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M to most corporations would be tough to swallow, but apparently to Texas A&M, it's a walk in the park for them, and they're more than happy to pay him, well, what will be, after he gets his lump sum of money, they're going to be paying him over $7 million a year for years to come from that outrageous contract that, what was it, $70-something million contract that he ended up signing when he came from Florida State. Arnett's deal there at Mississippi State, not nearly as expensive, and Mississippi State must be, deciding just they don't see it going in the right direction at all, though you didn't really give the guy a chance.
How do you know?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Though I did question, I don't know what's happened since Mississippi State played in Columbia, but you had Will Rogers as your quarterback, and you tried to, from the little bit that I've watched of them and in preparing for their game when they played South Carolina, it seemed as if he was trying to move away from that offense and move away from Will Rogers, which, you had one of the leading passers of all time in NCAA football history. And you're trying to go to a triple option or an option style offense. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. This guy's a defensive minded coach to begin with. So I don't know if the fit was good. So they're looking, and let's see, San Diego State has come open. Hoke announcing that he's going to be, or it's going to be announced, or he has announced that he's going to be retiring. So it's that time of year, fellas. Penn State fired their offensive coordinator. So if you're a head coach that feels the heat, then you fire coaches. And if you're a head coach who's already cooked, then you're going to get fired. So it's that time of year, right? Now pick your poison.
Well, to me, I'm not sure which side I am more impressed with. The ineptitude of the Texas A&M, I think they call them Board of Regents, to initially give Jimbo Fisher that mammoth, outrageous contract, or the ability of his agent to talk Texas A&M. Stunned me that they're going to be able to basically just cut him a check and say, go away. Here's $76 million so you don't have to coach anymore. And I am curious about the Zach Arnett situation because it came so quickly this morning on the heels of Texas A&M. You don't suppose Mississippi State believes they're in the same bidding war with whomever Texas A&M believes they've got in the – because I can't imagine A&M would have kicked Jimbo Fisher to the curb without already having somebody pretty much ready to go. So I'm curious if Mississippi State thought, hey, they may be going after the same guy, Dan Lanning, that we want. So let's get rid of our coach so we can start the bidding process with him and his agent right now.
Well, personally, I couldn't see Dan Lanning leaving Oregon for Mississippi State. That would be a major step down. A major step down. Now, Texas A&M, because look, if they're paying Jimbo Fisher that kind of money, the next guy's got to be thinking, well, how much are you going to pay me? Especially if I'm a big name. The other thing here too, and this is what is one of the things that's so uneven about the way the college coaching hiring scene works. You basically got one agent who's got his hands on all the big names, and that's Jimmy Sexton. And so what does Jimmy Sexton do? Of course, he can play one of his clients against another and just shuffle them around. I think it's pretty ridiculous how the colleges and the ADs have somehow, some way allowed themselves to get put into this corner with Jimmy Sexton and his enterprise out there at Memphis, where, I mean, he is the one who is raising the price on all these guys because he's got the clients in his back pocket. Maybe I shouldn't be blaming the ADs. I mean, it's not their fault that all the coaches are signing with this guy. Why are the coaches signing with this guy? Because he can go get them the money. And they're willing to give him the money. He's willing to make the money for him. And it goes round and round that way. And you end up having a situation where one guy, you might be interviewing 3 or 4 different coaches, and one guy might have them all. And, that is, I'm sure there's got to be a law against that. Maybe not. I guess because it happens, nobody's ever done anything about it. But it certainly is a strange way to do business. As for the on-the-field stuff, up at Clemson on Saturday, and the Tigers, they took care of their business for sure. They looked very good, except for a couple of 3 runs by Georgia Tech. That offense was pretty much snuffed out by the Clemson defense. They were on target, and they got after Georgia Tech from the very beginning. Offensively, obviously, the Tigers ran the ball well. And again, they asked Klubnik to, not put the ball in jeopardy and just, they didn't take too many shots down the field, but they did have some spectacular completions, and they did have some spectacular catches and some short catches and runs, and some good runs as well. Shipley and Maffa both broke off some very nice runs. The bad news is they lost their tight end, one of their tight ends, Sage Ennis, for the season with an ACL. So a good win for Clemson, a win that they should have gotten, and they won it the way they should have. In Columbia, I mean, complete domination by the Gamecocks, and they beat Vanderbilt the way they should have beat Vanderbilt without any questions being asked, and all aspects of the game except for the breakdown on special teams that one time, but they made up for it by blocking a punt and scooping and scoring. But otherwise, Rattler was on target. Leggett was doing some big-time stuff. Simon continues to come on and catch a lot of balls for him. Anderson continues to run extremely hard. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody run as hard as Mario Anderson runs. I mean, and that's obviously an exaggeration. There's been others, but just to watch him run, it's like this guy never quits. And if you don't get him down, he's just going to keep on churning. And I thought he ran the ball pretty well against Vanderbilt overall, a good performance for South Carolina. They won that game the way they should have won it. They took care of the 2 games that were their get-right games. Now they get Kentucky. I think they get Kentucky at an excellent time for them, with Kentucky getting hammered by Alabama up in Lexington on Saturday. I mean, a real beatdown, a physical beatdown that they took against Alabama. Alabama ran the ball on them, threw the ball on them, stopped Kentucky from running the ball. I think South Carolina, though they are the underdog, has a very good chance to win this game and pull themselves within a game of bowl eligibility. With Clemson coming to town, by the way, that game will be a 7:30 kickoff, the Palmetto Bowl, 7:30 kickoff in Columbia on the SEC network, 2 Saturdays away. Meantime, Clemson gets North Carolina this coming weekend. North Carolina won a thriller against Duke in overtime. It was a heck of a game in Chapel Hill, and a lot of points scored. The North Carolina defense can still give up a lot of points, but they can score a lot of points. And their field goal kicker, I think, nailed 6 field goals on the day. I think it was 6, 5 or 6.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. I think he had 6 and actually tied or broke a record that North Carolina had had for years against Duke. I think the original school record was 5 or 6 field goals in a game against Duke.
So, yeah, in May, of course, 300-plus yards passing. Hampton, the running back, had a big day running and catching the ball around the backfield. So this will be a true test for the Clemson defense against a legitimate big-time offense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've shut this offense down pretty much last year in the ACC championship game, and they have pretty much the same players. So is there reason to think that Clemson won't do it again? I don't know. I think that you got to give North Carolina its due and its credit, in Clemson's defense that had better be ready to play at a high level against a quality offense. And then offensively for Clemson, you feel like you go to the same formula, which is run the football, and kind of take the pressure off of Klubnik and kind of pick and choose to throw the ball. Though I would say, as Tyler Brown continues to get better, maybe they get Antonio Williams back here once again from another injury. Bo Collins continues to be a bit of a deep threat, and Brenningstool at tight end. I mean, they've got a good enough receiving core where if they feel like they have to throw the football, they got people they can get the ball who can do some damage catching the football. If you can get Klubnik into a comfort zone and into a rhythm where he feels good throwing the football. So that is Clemson, South Carolina, and you had Coastal. And I got to think, Tim Beck, you got to give him a lot of credit for the job he's done to get them to 7 wins now, preparing to go up to a West Point, and having to play your third-string quarterback and holding everything together like that. He deserves a heck of a lot of credit.
Well, I'll get to Coastal in just a minute, but you mentioned tonight is a host-free Monday, and that's a challenge, I think, for our listeners, Phil, because normally on a Monday, somebody's angry about something. It's a mad Monday. It's a manic Monday. Today's got to be a merry Monday, right? Touchstone Clemson. Football team played, as Dabo pointed out last night, probably its most complete game of the year. Men's basketball with a pair of thrilling comeback wins to claim the Asheville championship. And then, oh, by the way, also claimed the SEC tournament championship yesterday. Then you go to South Carolina, clearly, no question, their best football performance of the year. Men's basketball with a dynamite win on Friday night over Virginia Tech. South Carolina's women's team just obliterating Maryland yesterday, scoring the most points in program history against a ranked team. And now they're number 1 in the country today, probably deservedly, because this team is as good, perhaps maybe even a little better, just because of the style of play they can execute now, with transition buckets and also shooting from the outside. So I can't imagine Gamecock fans are upset. Can't imagine Tiger fans are upset about anything. And then you come to Coastal, and Coastal's defense, if you just saw the final score, 31-23 against Texas State, you think, gosh, that must have been a really, really good game. Actually, it wasn't for 2.5 quarters. Texas State scored on the opening possession, and then Coastal held in the 3 points until the final 3 minutes of the game. I mean, it was, 31-10. Late in the ball game, they got a touchdown, recovered an onside kick, scored again, and then Coastal was able to run out the clock. And then they got help on Saturday night from Marshall, knocking off Georgia Southern. So now Coastal sitting in a position. This weekend obviously doesn't matter in the Sun Belt race, but you'd like to keep that winning streak going. But if they beat James Madison at home in 2 weeks, they're the Sun Belt East champions and will play Troy in the Sun Belt title game for a second straight year to try and win the championship. And you talk about Tim Beck, if he pulls that off, he's got to be coach of the year in the Sun Belt without question, because this was a team at the end of September that was 0-2 in the Sun Belt and left for dead. And they have resurrected that team and playing about as well as anybody right now. And as you pointed out, doing it with 3 separate quarterbacks since the Arkansas State game is a remarkable turnaround, to say the least.
Absolutely. He deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. Okay, Smitty will be joining us here in just a little bit. He was taking care of some network business this afternoon and is just getting back to his studio location. So he'll be joining us here in just a little bit. Phone number 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number for you here on Sports Talk. It's time now to turn it over to you. It's a host-free Monday night. We put you on the clock. Going to give you about 2 minutes each to share your thoughts. As Bergie just pointed out, there ain't a whole lot to complain about. Did you mention?
Oh, and by the way,
yeah.
And by the way, I forgot, Furman fans ought to be thrilled. Outright Southern Conference championship for the first time since 2018.
And Benedict won their championship game as well. And Clemson soccer, men's soccer, won the ACC championship.
Yeah.
Today they were given the number 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, so they get a first-round bye, and they'll host a game next week. And you got the Clemson women and the South Carolina women advancing in the tournament. And they've got games coming up later on this week. So we've got a lot of good stuff going on, people. What are you going to do? Nothing to complain about. Doesn't mean you can't pick up the phone and share your thoughts, share your joy. Oh, and the other thing, of course, next week being a short week with Thanksgiving, go ahead and start taking those picks on the South Carolina Clemson South Carolina game. Give us your predictions on that. And as I mentioned, a 7:30 kickoff on that one on the SEC Network. The weather, based on my handy little app here that gives me 45 days in advance, weather forecasting, okay? So the 24th, we are looking at, now that we know it's a night game, we're looking at it's the 25th. We're looking at 61 degrees during the day, mostly sunny, and a clear night, 50 degrees. So that sounds perfect. That sounds perfect for the 25th, if you trust my handy-dandy weather app.
And the night game, I've got to help South Carolina, don't you think? Because they play so well at home, but they just seem to get a lot more energy out of the crowd. And obviously, night games are different in college football. But I think that game being played at night, much like the game last year being played at noon, I think helps South Carolina as the road team. I think having that game at 7:30 at night in Columbia certainly helps what will be an underdog South Carolina team. Whether or not they win is another story, but I think that's certainly good news for Gamecock fans.
Yeah, well, definitely. They were probably praying for a night game. They play so much better. This is why I'm thinking. Before this past weekend, I was thinking Clemson for the big game. Now I'm a little more up in. I can't get the Rattler. I sound like Beamer when I say that. The Rattler to Leggett connection at South Carolina, which appears to be unstoppable. And the fact that offensively, I think South Carolina can move the ball and score on Clemson. Defensively, can the Gamecocks slow down the Clemson running game and make Klubnik? How is Klubnik going to handle his first Clemson-Carolina game under the lights at Williams-Brice? That can be unnerving. Just ask Rodney Williams. Okay, let's go to your phone calls. 888-898-2525. We have got a nice run ahead of host-free Monday night. We put you on the clock. Let's go to John. He is in his kitchen in South Carolina, we would assume. Kitchen, South Carolina. Hello, John. The show is yours.
Boy.
Welcome in.
I just want to know how it wasn't a touchback in the Florida State University of Miami game.
Explain further, or maybe Pat or somebody. I didn't see that because I was at a game.
I did not either.
Pat, did you see that? No? So you explain then, because you got us all in the dark.
Well, it kind of happened in the Clemson game too. The university, if you watch the Clemson game when the U had Clemson down there on the goal line, and they it was a touchback, and they put it out on the or safety.
Safety should have been a safety that play.
Right. Don't you think it should have been a safety?
Sure looked like it, and yeah, that I think we were confused by the touchback comment, but yeah, and Chris, Phil, if y'all still didn't see it, no, you're okay. You're okay. There was a play
and
where
then in the FSU
Miami
game.
Yep.
If you Google that, I mean, if you didn't watch it, which a lot of people should have, but it was. I just can't understand what this thing is with everybody going against the U.
Conspiracy. They're not America's team now. That's Michigan, apparently, according to Harbaugh. Michigan is America's team. Not even the Cowboys anymore. It's Michigan is America's team. What's he talking about, Pat? Did you got an idea about what he's talking about?
Yeah, there was a play during that game where it sure looked like Jordan Travis. I mean, he was in the end zone. Jordan Travis was scrambling back. Two defenders from Miami were closing in on him quick. He then kind of stepped and sidestepped, which you would think would then nullify forward progress because, again, he on purpose took a step back so as to escape the defender. The defender then tackled him, and the ball was clearly across the white line in the end zone, along with Travis's entire body. It sure looked like it should have been a safety, and he references a very similar play in the Clemson game earlier this season. But the referees huddled up, and they actually called forward progress, and that Jordan Travis had made it successfully out of the end zone. But a lot of folks, including the announcers on TV, seemed a little confused by that. And that would have completely changed the game. I mean, Miami would have been up 12-10 at halftime.
Right?
That's right.
All right. Thank you, John. 2 minutes up. Got to move on. It's host-free, caller-driven Monday night here on Sports Talk, but we do have to kind of limit the time because we want to get on as many people as we can. But we appreciate that very much. Let's go to Hank in Columbia. Hank, welcome in. You got a couple of minutes. Fire away.
Hey, Corn, just wanted to call in. Yeah, it was a great weekend for the Gamecocks. The men, even as miserable and cold and wet as it was inside that stadium, they got it done. And it actually could have been worse if it wasn't for them 3 or 4 drops in the first half. If you're going to say anything, there were a couple of drops that happened that probably where Carolina was shooting itself in the foot the first couple of quarters. But great game. And watching the men's basketball, really encouraged by how they play, especially shooting above 50% from the three, and just the way that DJ Mack was able to play inside. So that was great. And then also, I'm always going to salute the women. If Maryland came in full strength, Corn, you can't talk about this player, that player missing. Mm-hmm. And the women completely dismantled Maryland. Mm-hmm. A top 12 opponent, and they beat them like they were playing their Division II exhibition, and that's including the exhibition that was against actually a Power 5 opponent. I mean, a Division I opponent. That's 3 straight games, all of them 100 or over 100 points. And so I think they're very deserving of being moved to the number 1 spot in the country.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They look awfully good once again. Hank, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's go to Gamecock Larry. He's got the 2-minute warning. Gamecock Larry, it's all yours.
Hello.
All yours. You got 2 minutes, Larry.
Yeah. Okay, I've all I got to say is a good weekend for the Gamecocks. I don't care about Clemson, but I got one word to say on Dabo.
Now, wait a minute. What? I have to jump in. Clemson had a good weekend, too.
Okay, but I want Dabo. This ain't Tyler from Spartanburg. This is Gamecock Larry from Swansea. I've been calling that 1-800-DABO, and old Dabo, they say, hold on, put you on hold. And I've been holding, but no Dabo. Dabo, you fixing to go to Texas A&M, huh? I hear about it. I know about it. Dabo, this Gamecock Larry from Spartanburg. I mean, no. I thought I got to get my Dabo. I love old Dabo. No, I don't. I don't love him, no. I'm just having fun laying here, just listening to all you, all this. But this is a great weekend. I love all. I'm just having fun,
Yes, you
buddy.
are. Yes, you are.
And
All right.
I don't drink. Don't drink, so you know I must be smoking something.
Ah.
No,
All right, Larry. Thank you. We're going to have to let you talk to the nurses or something. Probably got a real pretty nurse there helping him out too, huh? He won't admit to that. All right, going to hit a break. We can continue with your phone calls. It's a host-free Monday. Smitty's now connected. We'll get his thoughts on the Gamecocks. He was there. Back in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Some clouds this evening, but will stay dry. The low temp dips down to 41 tomorrow. The clouds stick around. We'll have more dry until Thursday or Friday, with a nice weekend shaped up with temps in the low 70s and mostly sunny skies. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
This is Ian with AccuClean. With the holiday season and gatherings with friends and family quickly approaching, now is the perfect time to get your carpets, rugs, and upholstery cleaned. AccuClean is a veteran-owned and local carpet cleaning company located in the Midlands for over 20 years. Call AccuClean today at 803-957-1202 to make sure your carpets are refreshed this holiday season. Once again, that's AccuClean at 803-957-1202. We hope to see you soon.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Gaza's Shifa Hospital has become a focus of a days-long stalemate in Israel's war against Hamas. Shifa is Gaza's largest hospital, but Israel claims Hamas uses the facility for military purposes and has built a vast underground command center below the hospital. Since Israel declared war against Hamas in response to a bloody cross-border attack by the Islamic group on October 7th, its forces have moved in on Shifa, but hundreds of doctors and patients remain inside. It remains unclear how and when the sensitive standoff will end. U.S. health officials are warning doctors to be on the lookout for possible cases of lead poisoning in children. At least 22 toddlers in 14 states have been sickened by lead that's linked to tainted pouches of cinnamon apple puree and applesauce. This is SRN News.
So, holiday shoppers ready to get some great Christmas discounts? Well, Shooter's Choice is where you need to be. Shop early and experience their brand new, beautiful remodeled showrooms. It's a new and easier shopping experience at Shooter's Choice with huge selections of new firearms and accessories to choose your perfect Christmas gifts from. I'm talking store-wide discounts, different items all month long, many with limited supply. So maybe you need some help, huh? Well, why don't you let the staff at Shooter's Choice help you make the best choices? See, they're the real deal. Seasoned firearms experts waiting to share their knowledge during your buying experience. Too many choices for that loved one, huh? Well, grab a gift card. Let's not forget November brings you the magical Black Friday weekend at Shooter's Choice with some unreal, ridiculously low prices on select firearms. Save hundreds of dollars on Black Friday weekend as well as store-wide the whole month of November. If you can't make it to the store, shop online. ShootersChoiceSC.com. Get that Christmas wish list ready. Make your shopping experience an easy and pleasant one. Make your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman-Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Have you ever walked in and looked at how beautiful a Lexington Discount Homes manufactured home really is? For more than 35 years, Lexington Discount Homes has helped families find home ownership with phenomenal customer service and a selection that fits your needs and your wallet. They have a huge variety of homes and prices. Come by and visit us at 1847 Augusta Highway or take a virtual tour online at LexingtonDiscountHomes.com. That's LexingtonDiscountHomes.com.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The patented key ingredient is something called Testofen, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ORDER to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text ORDER to 42424. That's ORDER to 42424.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk on a Monday night. It's a host-free Monday night. If you want to take over the program for about a 2-minute segment, give us a phone call, 888-258-2525. That is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. For Smitty. With us after finishing up some other work duties for the network this afternoon. Welcome, Smitty. I touched on the Gamecocks and Vandy, but you were there. You saw it in person in the rain and the chill of Columbia and Williams-Brice. And I summed it up by saying the Gamecocks did what they had to do. They beat a inferior team soundly, and they should have some confidence going into Kentucky this week.
Well, they absolutely should, and this shouldn't even take 2 minutes for me to sum up what South Carolina did. But for those that need more praise heaped on the Gamecocks, how about the fact that was the best fourth quarter performance of the season? They even had hiccups against Furman in the big win, the blowout win over Mississippi State. But save the first 2 quarters they played against Georgia and maybe 2.5 quarters against Florida. There was nothing like this that we had seen all season long, and especially on the defensive side. They inserted Bam Martin Scott into the lineup, and 13 tackles, 1 sack. I think that says it all. You can imagine what kind of impact that had. And they played downhill defensively, almost as if they were in Vanderbilt's huddle. They just knew what was coming. And then offensively, talk about doing what they had to do. They were completely balanced. Anytime that Spencer Rattler was dropping back to pass, he looked comfortable. He looked like he knew he and his receivers were all on the same page. He got protection, and when he didn't get protection, he was able to easily elude Vanderbilt's players. So, yeah, you're right, Corn, that they did what they should have done. That's how you're supposed to beat an inferior opponent. But it's a performance we hadn't seen from South Carolina. We did against Furman. We didn't see it against Mississippi State. If they would have played this well in the fourth quarter against Vanderbilt, they'd be looking to get bowl eligible this week instead of needing to win both of these next 2 games. So I think South Carolina fans can be really heartened by what they saw from the Gamecocks. And look, in part, it's because they were backed into a wall. We know the circumstance they were placed in by losing all of the swing games coming into this. They didn't get it done when they had Georgia down. They didn't get it done when they were on top of Florida. They didn't get it done on the road at Missouri or Texas A&M or Tennessee. So they were backed into a corner. But what you have to say is they've responded. And Shane Beamer, like Dabo Swinney, after their coaching career is over, they certainly can make money as a motivational speaker. No one can deny these guys can motivate. And I think you've seen the last 2 weeks from both coaches, just 2 of the best performances from their team. Nothing X's and O's. This is not about strategy. This has been an attitude adjustment for both programs.
Yeah. Well, and the question is, Chris, from a Gamecock standpoint, as you look ahead to the next 2 weeks, is it fool's gold what we've seen from the Gamecocks at the wins over Jacksonville State, though that was a bit of a struggle, and Vanderbilt? Is it fool's gold, or have they fixed some things, and have they solved enough of their problems to where they can win these next 2 and find themselves in a bowl game come December sometime?
Fool's Gold is an interesting reference because it may be spot on. The Jacksonville State game was clearly a lot closer, but I thought Jacksonville State was a better football team than I think most people gave them credit for being. And certainly Vanderbilt is not a good football team. So as you pointed out in the open, Carolina did to them exactly what they should have done to them. And let's face it, Kentucky is not the team we thought they were in September. I mean, they have struggled since they hit October. They're not playing as well. And they're coming off a devastating loss to Alabama. But all of that said, all you can do is line up and beat the teams in front of you. And if they beat Kentucky on Saturday, you've got a confident bunch going into Clemson, and then they'll find out whether or not any of this in November was fool's gold and matters. But confidence can go a long way for a team that did not appear to have much confidence at the end of October and barely got past Jacksonville State, then had a really, really good performance this past Saturday against Vanderbilt. Let's see how they motivate and move into this coming Saturday against Kentucky, a game they can win. There's no question. Kentucky can beat them, sure. But this is a game the Gamecocks can win, and I think if they put the effort, especially defensive effort, that they threw out against Vanderbilt, there's no reason they shouldn't win on Saturday.
All right, our phone number, 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Host free Monday night, but right now the hosts have to dominate because lines are open. So if you were worried about trying to get through, you can get through. Lines are open on this Monday night. It might be because there's nothing to complain about after the wins over the weekend, as Chris pointed out. Yeah, this will give me a chance to go through some other interesting notes. We got basketball tonight, so the basketball schedule tonight in the state looks like this. South Carolina will be at home against VMI, and it's Presbyterian tonight playing at the Citadel. South Carolina State, home to North Florida. Charleston Southern going to be cooking tonight against Johnson and Wales. That is the lineup in the state of South Carolina. You get the cooking thing right. Johnson and Wales is a cooking school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Charleston Southern going to try a new recipe tonight on Johnson and Wales. Good weekend for basketball over the weekend for Clemson as they won those two tight games in Asheville against UAB and yesterday against Davidson. We talked about the USC women. Furman has won their first two games of the season, so they're off to a good start on the hardwood as well. I tell you, the Furman athletic program right now going like gangbusters between their football program and their men's basketball program. Also, over the weekend, the around the state in football, besides the ones we've talked about, Furman did beat VMI. You mentioned that to clinch the SoCon outright. How about that Wofford Citadel game, 11-3? Yeah, it just seems appropriate for two teams that were winless going in that you'd have an 11-3 final score. But Wofford gets on the board with a W, and they'll finish up at home against Furman on Saturday. Presbyterian, they lost at Drake, so they've lost 4 in a row. South Carolina State, final home game for Buddy Pugh. Tough loss, 3-point loss to Morgan State. Good ball game, had a chance. Didn't score a bunch of points in the second half. Morgan State did, and they end up winning that ball game. Charleston Southern loses at Robert Morris. Newberry, down year for them. They finished 4-7. They lose their last 4, and they lose at Mars Hill Saturday. We talked about the Citadel. They'll wrap things up at East Tennessee, trying to get a W before the season is over. Erskine did finish winless. They lose to Barton. They go 0-11. And Limestone won at Emory and Henry, and the Saints are in the D2 playoffs. This would be the second year in a row for them in the D2 playoffs. They will play at Valdosta State this coming Saturday. Benedict won the conference championship. They defeated Albany State, and they will have a home playoff game in 2 weeks in Division II playoffs. So there you go. That's the way things went around the state on the football side of things. So got some teams with some things to play for. Furman's going to go to the playoffs, be a high seed, and we got Limestone and we got Benedict in the D2. Clemson's going to go to a bowl game. Coastal's going to go to a bowl game. And the Gamecocks, if they can win out, they're going to go to a bowl game as well. Saw some bold projections for Clemson. Not real crazy about most of them. One of them's got him in San Diego. Another one's got him in El Paso. This is what happens when, maybe if they can win out, if they win out and get to 8 wins, that will improve their bowl stock, and they'll end up somewhere closer to home, maybe in Florida somewhere.
Yeah, maybe back in the Gator Bowl. We touched on that one last week or so, and it'd be ironic that they show up this year after the Gamecocks played there last year. But we talked about Tim Beck and the job he's done in his first season at Coastal, and it has been nothing shy of remarkable, especially since the 0-2 conference start. But how about the job Mike Fury is doing at Limestone? I mean, he's just winning ball games left and right. He's got that program definitely headed in the right direction for sure.
He is an excellent coach. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's an excellent coach. His first go-around at Limestone, he left. They were winners. Then he goes off to the NFL, I think, for 4 years. He comes back, and immediately they're winners once again. So the guy's just an excellent coach. And, you know, they have built a small on-campus stadium, which is nice. They're putting a little money in the program, but this guy's a heck of a coach, and I wonder if he has aspirations to try and move up, you know, to the next level. But right now, he's trying to continue to win. And I tell you, this guy is driven from my times being down there to interview him in the preseason. He, you know, being a former NFL wide receiver who was, I believe, an undrafted free agent, he takes his preparation, his physical preparation, as seriously as his players do. I mean, he's still physically fit like an NFL guy. So he's done an impressive job, no question about it. All right, back to the phones. 888-898-2555, host free. We go to Ken in Columbia. Ken, the floor is yours. Take it away, 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. And he might as well add the Gamecocks to the bowl picture because they're going to win out. Kentucky, there's no way at home, at night, with Beamer Ball. The star power will be in the house on that night. Can't say that now, but let's just say it's political season, so it's going to be some star power there. They will win out, and they will go to a bowl game. The other thing I want to talk about is, do you think it's possible that there may not be an SEC team in the playoffs? Because let's say that Georgia loses to Alabama, you got a one-loss Bama, a one-loss Georgia, but you have Michigan and Ohio State coming undefeated. You're going to have one of those guys are going to lose. They're going to say, well, the Big Ten played a better schedule. So do you take the one-loss either Ohio State or Michigan along with the loser? Now those two spots are taken. A one-loss Texas team, they get in, winning their championship, and say Washington gets in there. Do you leave an SEC team out?
That's a heck of of an idea. Well, I tell you,
it's possible.
If Alabama,
Georgia's schedule has been kind of weak, and Alabama been a little shaky.
I don't know that you can leave. You know, I would say the Georgia schedule is the one you would question the most. The Alabama schedule, I think, a little bit stronger. And if you know, and what did Alabama have? A close loss at Texas, right?
At home against Texas.
At home.
Yep. But it was close.
They lost by 10, I think.
Okay. I would still say that they're going to be hard pressed if Georgia is undefeated in the SEC championship game and they were to lose to Alabama, especially in a close one. They'd be hard pressed to leave Georgia out. Two-time defending national champion. I think, you know, it's a very subjective thing. I think that plays in the minds of the committee. The fact that it's the history, tradition, and defending national champs. The SEC still has the reputation of being the toughest league in America, and I don't really think they hold their schedule against them because they play in the SEC, and for some reason everybody outside the SEC believes that every week in the SEC, you know, it's warfare. Well, inside the SEC they believe that as well, but you have enough people outside who believe it too. I don't think they would hold that against Georgia if they were to lose to Alabama. If Alabama doesn't lose another game and Georgia's undefeated in the SEC championship game, I think they would still both get in. I think they would still both get in.
You may be right, Ohio State will have an argument.
Well, you're going to have an argument no matter what, because there's going to be there'll be a worthy team or two not going to make the playoffs simply because there's only 4 spots, and you probably got 6 or 7 teams that could make a worthy argument, don't we?
Throw another wrinkle in there. What happens if Oregon, whose only loss this season was against Washington, what if they beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship game?
Exactly. The problem is there, if you're asking me, the perception of the Pac-12 10, 4, 2, whatever it is, that perception doesn't equate to the SEC perception. Sure. Like it or not, the great line, perception is reality. And they sit around that room and they go, well, it is the SEC, and they did have one loss, and da-da-da-da-da. That's what I just think human behavior and subjectivity will come into play. Michigan, Ohio State, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to see really, but it may happen. You may see Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State as your four teams, with one team having a loss because of what happened when they met head-to-head. Ohio State and Michigan are going to meet head-to-head. One of them's going to the Big Ten championship game. Win that, okay, you're in. That loser of the Michigan-Ohio State game, you're going to leave them out?
Yes, because they didn't even win their division, much less play for a conference championship. I think the loser of that game is out.
You do think they're out?
Yes,
After
I think
being
they're
ranked
out.
one
I think
or
it's
two
Ohio
all
State.
year.
Yeah, and I think it's Ohio State. I think they're overrated. I think Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. And I'm telling you right now, Georgia's not losing because I've totally convinced myself, even though I talked myself out of it last week, every time Georgia has been challenged this year, look at all the games. Now, their schedule has not been all that strong, but teams that were supposed to be able to contend with them, Florida, Tennessee, this past weekend against, Missouri played them okay 2 weeks ago. This past weekend, you got Mississippi coming into town. They just obliterate teams. I mean, the only team that Georgia football has had a problem with is the Georgia State Police. Other than that, I mean, on the field, they've been terrific this season when they've had to.
But guys, I just want to. I think we're missing one element here, and that is this is really going to press. The every year the committee changes size. We have been told over and over, and this goes back to TCU Baylor. Head-to-head matters. If Texas does not lose again and Alabama wins the SEC championship, and you put Alabama in over Texas, you have just broken one of your cardinal rules.
Great point. Mm-hmm.
I want to
That's
credit.
the issue.
I want to credit Chris there for stealing a Smitty line. That was a Smitty line you just used about the Georgia police.
Well, I'll give Smitty some credit. He didn't tell me that, but I've been thinking about that because, I mean, nobody else has even challenged them thus far this season. I mean, Georgia has been, when they've needed to be great, they have been elite and have looked like the best team in the country when they've been challenged.
Yeah. Go ahead, Smitty. Anything else?
No, I just simply wanted to bring that up. And Corn, I think you're right. Everything you said was right, and that's what they will want to do in that room when they're pressed. But I'm just pointing out, the committee seems to change the rules every season, and they have a new darling. And I would just be, if their darling isn't Texas, I just think that would be, usually we see a team left out, but I don't know that we've ever seen a team left out that has the fan base of an Alabama, a Georgia, Ohio State, a Michigan, or a Texas. It's usually a TCU or a Baylor or an Oregon or a Washington that's left out. It's rarely one of these blue bloods. And if we get all blue bloods jammed in there, I think it's going to make for a very interesting December.
Well, let's just say this as well as we go to break. Alabama's not the same team that lost to Texas. Okay, Milroe, they have found their quarterback, and they have found the right way to use him. And their offense is totally different now than it was in September. So they're a different team. And I'm not going to be shocked if they beat Georgia. I hear what you're saying. Georgia has been rising to the occasion, and they beat Ole Miss like a redheaded stepchild. Sorry about that, Pat.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with the family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at sccattle.org. Beef, it's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff Program.
Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, this is Lisa Hosteller-Brown. Do you know the difference between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust? The difference could easily save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in long-term care costs. Visit lawyerlisa.com to schedule a consultation today.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
Daddy, you need a trust.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
Football season is upon us, and that means Columbia is welcoming fans from around the corner and across the country. No matter where you're from, Gamecocks love coming together for game day energy that can only be found in South Carolina's capital city. Book hotel rooms, find pre- and post-game activities, and plan your tailgate spread with local favorites from pimento cheese to barbecue at experiencecolumbiasc.com. We'll see you soon, and go Gamecocks!
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
Go, 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 shorty. It's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday. We gon' sip the party like it's your birthday. We in the club, bottle full of bubbles. Mommy, I got the hits.
Hey, we forgot all about Florida State, didn't we?
How about that? Yes.
Not used to talking about them this time of the year, but you gotta think about Florida State. Where do they factor into this thing? I mean, they are in the top 4 of the rankings. They're number 4. They went out. They got Florida the last weekend. Who they have this weekend? Anybody know off the top of their heads? I can look it up. They went out. They're undefeated.
Is it Chattanooga?
They got a
North Alabama, then Florida.
Yeah.
North Alabama.
So they got They got a dynamic offense. They got a dynamic offense, a great quarterback. I don't know. If they're undefeated, they run the table, and they win the ACC championship.
They're in. I think they're in.
Okay, so who's out?
Well, I still think the argument is going to be between the Big 12 and perhaps I still think if Alabama wins the SEC championship, it's going to be really hard to keep Georgia out of there. I really do. So you're probably talking about 3 leagues playing for one spot.
And to add to what you're saying, Chris, to make it even harder for the committee to leave Georgia out, I know they're not supposed to let past years factor in, but don't you think a lot of fans out there would want to see a one-loss Georgia team have a chance to defend their 2-time defending title championship?
Yeah, that's it has to come into play in their thinking when you're sitting around that table. The fact that Georgia's and they're having another great year. It's not like they're a 2-loss team and there'd be no sentiment then. But I'm saying a 1-loss Georgia team losing in the SEC championship in a tight game at the very end. If that were to be the case, you'd have to give them strong consideration still because, I mean, yeah, they haven't played the toughest of schedules, but the teams that they thought might give them trouble, they've kicked them all. Auburn, LSU, Tennessee, this most recent one, Ole Miss, when they played Kentucky. All these teams were expected to give Georgia a battle, and all of them got smoked by Georgia.
And
so they have risen to
Phil,
the occasion every time.
And keep in mind, with regards to their schedule, their own league hurt them because they were supposed to play Oklahoma in non-conference this year, and the SEC told them to change that game because Oklahoma was transitioning into the league. We would not have this discussion with Georgia if Oklahoma were on the schedule and they would have beaten them earlier in the season.
Yeah, good point.
And to add to your point earlier, Phil, about the Pac-12, there's currently 5 teams at 9-0 but Washington is the last ranked of those. They're currently at 5. So you got to think right now the committee is looking at the Pac-12 as a step behind the Big Ten, the ACC, and the SEC.
Okay,
and can we point out?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say quickly. I always say this. I don't think there's enough of a benefit to scheduling tough. So Georgia got a break. Alabama didn't. They played Texas. What if you're Texas and you're standing there? You're saying, look, we played Alabama, went to their place, beat them, and just because we lost one conference game, you guys want to keep us out in favor of somebody else who played a softer schedule? Hardly seems fair.
Yeah. It's never fair, though. That's the thing. I mean, throw fairness out of it. Texas would be a heck of a draw. Would it be a bigger draw than a one-loss Georgia team, but a two-time defending national champion, as I think it was Pat who said, defending their national championship? Be back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. President Biden says the negotiations to secure the release of hostages kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th are ongoing with the help of Arabic mediators.
There's an effort to take this pause to deal with the release of prisoners, and that's being negotiated as well with the Qataris are engaged, and so I remain somewhat hopeful.
Mr. Biden also says he's been speaking with Israeli back the military operation around the largest Gaza hospital, Al-Shifa.
The hospital must be protected.
Israel says it is not targeting hospitals directly, but acknowledges there are clashes around Al-Shifa and other facilities. The AAA predicts millions of us will travel for the Thanksgiving holiday. Correspondent Rita Foley reports.
More of us will travel this year than last, says the AAA. 55 million travelers plus will head 50 miles or more from home for the holiday. Most of us will go by car, and here is some good news. If you're driving, you may pay less for gas than last Thanksgiving. It was $3.58 a gallon then. Today it's 22 cents cheaper, and prices have been falling. The busiest day on the roads will likely be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, says INRIX, the data provider. It recommends leaving in the morning or after 6 in the evening to avoid the traffic crush. I'm Rita Foley.
The Republican Party's once crowded 2024 presidential primary field has suddenly shrunk to just a handful of viable candidates. A day after South Carolina Senator Tim Scott stunned many of his own staff by suspending his own campaign, the fight between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis for second place behind Donald Trump appears to be intensifying. On Wall Street, the Dow by 54 points, the Nasdaq dropped 30, the S&P lower by 3. More at townhall.com.
Factor pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Harry, God has chosen you to have a son.
The greatest story ever told is now an epic Christmas musical for the whole family.
I won the mother found.
You are in danger, Mary.
Starring Fiona Paloma, Milo Manheim, Lecrae, Joel Smallbone, and Academy Award nominee Antonio Banderas.
This child, what is his name?
Jesus.
Journey to Bethlehem, rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. In theaters everywhere now. Soundtrack also available. Get tickets now at journeytobethlehem.com.
Former British Prime Minister David Cameron has made a shock return to high office. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
Cameron has been appointed Foreign Secretary in a shake-up of the Conservative government that also saw the firing of divisive Home Secretary Suella Braverman. It's rare for a former leader and a non-lawmaker to take a senior government post. The government says Cameron will be appointed to Parliament's unelected upper chamber, the House of Lords. The move marks the return of a leader brought down by Britain's decision to leave the EU. Cameron had called the 2016 EU membership referendum confident the country would vote to stay in the bloc. He resigned the day after voters opted to leave. Charles de Ledesma, London.
Braverman was ousted after she protested the way London police handled the pro-Palestinian demonstrations. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Some clouds this evening, but will stay dry. The low temp dips down to 41 tomorrow. The clouds stick around. We'll have more clouds than sunshine and a high temp of 67. Dry until Thursday or Friday, with a nice weekend shaped up with temps in the low 70s and mostly sunny skies. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
As a kid, you dreamed of being a firefighter one day. Now, the opportunity is yours. Answer the sound of sirens. Live your dream. Visit scvolunteerfire.org to find out more.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, Matt Smith, Pat Daniel, 888-898-2525. Back to your calls in a moment. South Carolina out to a 5-0 lead on Vimy in the first 2 minutes and 10 seconds of that game over at the CLA. The Gamecocks are playing without a couple of players. Zach Davis is out. Ibrima Deba also out. Deba's still coming off of the torn Achilles, and apparently Davis is under the weather tonight. A few other notes to pass along. Furman defensive end Luke Clark is the SoCon Defensive Player of the Week, and Furman remains number 2 in the FCA rankings this week. Fort Dorchester High School, their head football coaching job is open after one season. Don't know if it was resignation or firing or what, but they're changing head football coaches. James Madison at Coastal will have a 3:30 kick on ESPN2 week from Saturday. Clemson's men's soccer, number 9 seed for the NCAA tournament, first round bye. They will host either Charlotte or High Point November 19th. Clemson corner, Shelton Lewis, the ACC Rookie of the Week. USC women move up to number 1 in the AP Women's Basketball poll. Maxwell Football Club announced today Clemson linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has been named as one of the 20 semifinalists for the Chuck Bednarik Award. And let's see, what else did we have here? Did that the new odds to win the College Football Playoff Championship from Bet Online. Michigan 13-5, Georgia 3-1, Alabama 5-1, Ohio State 8-1, Oregon 8-1, and Florida State 19-2. Your Heisman odds. Bo Nix is 10-11. Michael Penix is 4-1, and Jaden Daniels, who now a lot of voters are coming out saying he's the guy, he is 17-4 in those odds. St. John's confirmed that they've parted ways with their head football coach, Mike Howard. Kevin Bilodeau down in Charleston reporting that. And what else we want to mention here? Our poll question of the week, because we're starting up on the South Carolina Clemson game here a little early, and why not? So who is your favorite as of right now? Who do you pick to win South Carolina Clemson game week from Saturday? This is straight up, no points involved, just straight up. Who's going to win? 292 votes are in through this evening. 53% are picking the Gamecocks, and 47% have picked the Tigers thus far. So we'll see how people feel about things next week after watching games this weekend. Bowl projections from Jerry Palm He's got Clemson versus Oregon State in the Holiday Bowl in San Diego. He's got the Gamecocks against Georgia State in the Birmingham Bowl. Yuck. And he's got Coastal. No, I mean, that is really yuck. That is just.
And that means that he believes that they'll beat Clemson, too.
I guess he does. And
Has to.
Coastal against
Unless they're
San
going
Jose
as a 5
State.
and 7 team.
Yeah, exactly. And Coastal against but you can't project a 5 and 7. I mean, you can't project.
Right.
I don't think you can right now. And Coastal versus San Jose State in the Boca Raton Bowl. So, yes. Mike Morgan's neighborhood, Boca Raton. Boca, just so you go to Boca. So, all right, there you go.
So, speaking of Coastal, I think this would be a funny matchup, and this would assume also that Coastal would win the Sun Belt, which would guarantee them a spot in the New Orleans Bowl. Brett McMurphy has them playing Liberty in the New Orleans Bowl, a rematch with their former head coach, Jamie Chadwell, and the Liberty Flames.
So, he thinks they're going to beat JMU next week and then win the Sun Bowl championship? Wow.
Yep.
Speaking of Jamie Chadwell, you know, there are some people who say he is the leading candidate at Mississippi State.
Well, Smitty and I were talking about him earlier today, and he's going to get a shot, especially if he continues to win as big as he has at Liberty, because I think his offense works anywhere. And you plug and play, Power 5 level talent, it's going to work there just the same way it worked at the FCS level, at the D2 level, only at the Group of 5 level right now.
Wonder why they just wouldn't go back to Dan Mullen unless that ship has sailed, unless there's some people bitter over him leaving Mississippi State when he did. I don't know. But Dan Mullen proved you can win and win big at Mississippi State if you have the right quarterback and the right personnel around him. So just thinking, Dan Mullen's not that far removed from the game either. It's not like he's 4 or 5 years out of it. He's just a couple of years out of it. So, okay, phone number, 888-898-2525. Zach Willis coming up at the bottom of the hour. Right now we go back to your phone calls. And Bruce in Missouri. Welcome in, Bruce. You got a couple of minutes here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Bill, for taking my call tonight. How about them Evansville Panthers?
How about them?
They're on the run. They're not going to stop until the top of the heat.
Yeah.
They can't go no further.
Not going to be surprised.
I think Clemson is way, way underrated because they have beat everybody in statistics. I know y'all say it's a loser's win, but they have beat everybody they played on the paper in every aspect, and except for the number on the board. And I think they should be ranked up there, either 10 or 9, somewhere around there, and give them a chance.
So you think Clemson should be ranked among the top 10 in the country?
At least.
But then, I mean, they've got 4 losses
at 6-4 and a losing record right now in the ACC.
That is on the scoreboard. That's not the actual truth.
Well, I mean, there's only really in competition, the scoreboard is the truth.
I'm talking about the figures.
I mean, I know there's subjective opinion, and you can look at them and say this, that, and the other, but the scoreboard is the ultimate truth.
I'm a football player, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if we beat somebody in all the statistics except for the score, we won the game. We played that hard to win the game. The score just tells you that they scored more points than
Bruce,
that's all.
You don't really believe this. You don't really believe what you're saying.
I'm saying being a football player, that's how you look at the game.
I don't know about that.
I've never heard a football player who lost a game cite the fact that they rushed for 200 yards more than the opponent. They should deserve the W, even though the scoreboard said they lost by 3 touchdowns.
As hard as you played and you won the statistics, all the figures are going against both teams. You outplayed them, but you didn't outscore them. That's the only point I'm getting at.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's your 2 minutes. Okay. All right. Well,
I mean, if that's the case, why do we keep score?
Why do we have scoreboards?
I mean,
why do we have these big, $10 million scoreboards?
I do think to soften it a little bit, I think we do understand somewhat what Bruce means. He's talking about strange situations. A kicker might miss a kick, and some funky things can happen. You have a goal line fumble like Will Shipley, and you feel like Clemson is better than their record. I think we all can understand and agree with that. But Bruce, you got to be careful because your favorite team, you might have to go back through history on a team that won 13 or 11 or 9 games and give a couple back by your way of thinking too.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
Over
if you
time,
want to go both ways.
Yeah, over time, I mean, you've won some games you probably shouldn't have won because the other team, fumbled or threw a pick, and you've lost some games. It kind of evens out over time. But all right, thank you for that. Appreciate it. 888-898-2525 is our phone number. I want to mention a couple of other quick things. This little breakdown on the Jimbo Fisher deal, Stuart Mandel reported that the AD said that the initial $19.4 million will come from an A&M donor fund. Then the athletics budget will take a hit at $7.3 million per year for 8 years. About the only other contract I can think of that that would be related to that. Who was the player for the Mets?
Bobby Bonilla.
Bobby Bonilla. Are they still paying him, by the way?
It's every July 1st, Smitty, isn't that Bobby Bonilla Day?
Yeah, and so now A&M can celebrate Jimbo Fisher Day. Jimbo Fisher can come by, pick up his check, and say hello to everybody.
You know what's sad, though? Our
Visit
mindset in our
the
country.
oil magnet boosters.
What's sad in our
made it
country
possible.
is there are people who who feel bad for Zach Arnett because his buyout's only $4 million. I mean, it's because he's fired the same weekend as Jimbo Fisher, and Jimbo's buyout was what it is, $70-something million. So it makes $4 million look paltry unless you're Mississippi State and you're having to pay it. Which, of course, Jimbo Fisher makes Will Muschamp's buyout look paltry.
Mm-hmm.
That was ended up being about what, 14, 15 million when it was all worked out, something like that. I don't know. I mean, we sit here and we say, how can these administrators, these presidents, the ADs get themselves in such a corner with these contracts, yet Texas A&M will do it all over again with the next guy. And the next big school that goes looking for a coach will do the same thing. It's the inability to restrain. It's like the old Major League Baseball early days of free agency when George Steinbrenner drove everything, and he just couldn't resist throwing millions of dollars at any ball player that he thought could help his team win. Did not care how much it would spend. Didn't realize that money doesn't buy championships. And if you ask me, if I'm Texas A&M and I'm looking across the landscape of coaches who've done a phenomenal job, especially taking nothing and making it into something, the guy at Kansas, Leopold, he'd be one of my first phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you win at Kansas the way he has and make them relevant in a, 2 or 3 year span? Shoot. I'd have to now maybe he's not sexy enough for Texas A&M. Doesn't have a big enough name, but sometimes you just got to look at what a guy is doing in a off the radar situation and doing some amazing things. And this guy's done some amazing things, I would say. Elko at Duke, of course he was a DC at Texas A&M at one time, so he has connections there. You wonder if that might be a possibility. So.
A little bit more information on this.
To your point, Phil.
Yeah.
On this Texas A&M situation, a little more context too. And the current record in our country for the buyout of a college football coach was Auburn's $21.7 million buyout of Gus Malzahn back in 2020. Well, Texas A&M athletic director Ross Bjork came out and said that no public dollars will go towards Fisher's $77.5 million buyout. He said, quote, "We will use unrestricted contributions within the 12th Man Foundation for the first one-time payments, and the athletic department will fund the annual payments for the remaining portion by growing our revenues and adjusting our annual operating budget accordingly." We'll keep that name in mind. Remember the name 12th Man Foundation. Where I'm going with this is halftime of that football game on Saturday against Mississippi State. There's now been reports that have come out that A&M was already planning to fire their head coach, Jimbo Fisher, regardless of the outcome. I mean, Let's face it, it was a blowout. You wouldn't think a coach after a 40-point victory would get fired. Halftime of that game, there was a giant check distributed from that 12th Man Foundation to Athletic Director Bjork for $160,470,000.
Oh my gosh.
So at halftime of the game, where they've already acknowledged their plan to fire the guy, they then fire the guy after the game or the next day. Their athletic director cites this foundation as helping cover the costs, and that foundation presents a check to the AD for $160 million at halftime. Well, that then leads me back. Remember a couple years ago when LSU decided to part ways with Ed Orgeron? And in his kind of exit press conference, Orgeron was asked about that conversation with the AD. I just like to play a little quick audio here. I'm wondering if Jimbo Fisher's not thinking the same thing.
I got to tell you, we had a meeting. Say, Coach, things are not going well. No Ray Charles can see that, brother.
So what's next?
Well, I got to tell you this, though. Say, Coach, you got $17.1 million on your contract. We're going to give it to you. I said, what time you want me to leave and what door you want me out of, brother?
Can't help but wonder if Jimbo Fisher didn't have a similar response to AD Bjork when he was announced that he was firing, but getting a parting gift of $77.5 million.
Wow. And here's the other thing. Jimbo won't be unemployed for long. First of all, he gets all the money even if he gets another job, okay? So who wouldn't hire Jimbo Fisher? I mean, the record, he might not have won enough at Texas A&M, and everybody might be saying, well, he only won a national championship because he had Winston at quarterback. Well, they had more than that. That was a hell of a team that won the national championship at Florida State. That being said, the guy can coach. You just have to put him in the right situation. I mean, Texas A&M looked like a marriage made in heaven between the two sides. Everybody at that time wanted Jimbo Fisher, blah, blah, blah. And it just didn't pan out to their satisfaction. So if Arkansas makes a move on Sam Pittman, let's say, or maybe even Mississippi State, would Mississippi State say, okay, you know what, Jimbo, we might have a little bit better situation for you. I mean, I'm just speaking out loud. I think that Jimbo Fisher, if he wants to coach again, will find a spot somewhere in a big-time program in the country.
I think Kevin Sumlin's sitting back somewhere in Maryland and smiling because he actually, if I'm not mistaken, is going to have a better record at Texas A&M than Jimbo had.
Kevin Sumlin was a good coach.
Kevin, mm-hmm.
I mean, he had it. You know,
they have no patience out there.
Yeah. Okay, continue with your phone calls. 888-898-2525. It's 11-9. South Carolina leading VMI, 12-13 to play in the opening half, and the Gamecocks don't have anybody really standing out scoring-wise. Mac leads them with 3. They're only shooting 31%, and the Keydets are shooting 36%. We go to Speedy in Columbia. Oh, Speedy, It's been a minute or two. I don't know if you've lost a little bit off your overall speed, but we shall see. Welcome in. How are you?
How you doing?
Where you been?
Oh man, just out here just working. I'm a family man, so when you got businesses, you constantly working.
I understand.
Eating and getting fat. That's what I'm doing.
Yes, I understand. What's on your mind? Let it rip.
Well, I'm sitting here and I'm reading headlines, all these coaches getting fired, and they're taking a nice big paycheck, and they can go and drink margaritas and hang out with not the margarita man. God bless his soul, he ain't here no more. But James Taylor, they can just sit down and just relax. I look at Shane Beamer. I think he's a young coach with a lot of passion. I think that he needs to take a really good look at his staff and see what he could try to find someone that could be able to coach better on defense and definitely coach better on offense. We haven't had a good offensive line, I don't think, since Steve Spurrier. I think Steve Spurrier's offensive line wasn't that good neither. But we don't have established running game. Everybody is going to run a ball down our throat. Our defense can't even stop a Hugo. It's just that bad. And if you take a look at it, if you can't stop the run, if you cannot run the football in the SEC, then we belongs in the Atlantic Cupcake Conference, and that's the ACC. You need to put us right in there because we can't stop nobody. And I'm gonna say this: Kentucky is gonna run the ball down our throat, and they got a damn good quarterback. He's mobile. He has that pro style pocket presence. The way he throw the football down the field. If our defense don't jump on him the first half, we could be in really big trouble. And that's the problem with. I want Shane Beamer to be the coach of the future, and I think it's going to take us time because we spend money on Will Muschamp, and you see what we got, what kind of investment we got return on that. So he set our program back another 5 or 6 more years. So we had to give this coach that I've been trying to lobby for a long time after Steve Spurrier left. But we got an athletic director who's very passionate about the university, won 2 national championships in baseball. But when you're in the administration office, you got to dial up something not sexy, not cheap like Walmart. You got to be able to put your hats all in. Tyler needs to spend some money. That's what they need to do. And they need to take advantage of the NIL deal. And I want to get you guys' opinion on that. And it's nice talking to you.
Speedy, good hearing from you. You know, South Carolina's in NIL. They have not been bashful about doing NIL deals. And they were one of the forerunners of in-house NIL operations and bringing in outside people to work NIL and promoting NIL. I think they've done a heck of a lot for with NIL, and they're spending money on their players. You know, we've told you that Spencer Rattler makes 1.2, and Juice Wells had an $800,000 deal. And now I don't know if that's pure cash, or if that includes, like I had somebody telling me the other day that they were over at the Mercedes-Benz dealership in Columbia for some reason. I don't think they were buying a Benz. I'm not exactly sure if they were having a car serviced or anyway. One of the sales guys who was a buddy of his was showing him around and took him into this area where they had the really high-priced Mercedes. And he said, "See that one over there?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "That one's for Spencer Rattler." So I mean, that might be just part when you figure in the total money amount, that might be part of it. You know, the lease that he has. I'm sure those cars are leased. You got to have some sort of paperwork when you take a car out of the dealership. You know, either you're buying it or you're leasing it. I'm sure it's a lease deal. But you know, South Carolina has not been shy. They were one of the first big ones to really just say to welcome NIL and the transfer portal, and they make no bones about it. They're involved with both. Now, you know, money well spent is money well spent. You mentioned South Carolina's defensive situation, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions. I see it on the message boards. I see it on the internet from people saying they need to fire Clayton White and go in a different direction with the defense. And I mean, I don't know. Personally, listening to Clayton White sounds like a smart coach, a good guy. I think the players like playing for him, and his coaches like coaching under him. Does he have a good, solid plan, or is it just about getting better players? You know, I watched Jordan Birch the other night, Oregon and Southern Cal playing. I love those late night Pac-12 10-4-2 games, and I saw Jordan Birch tackling Marshawn Lloyd. I said, "Wow, we used to know those two guys. You know, one was in green and one was in what color they have out there, Southern Cal? That's kind of a yellow and
that'd be maroon and gold.
Maroon and gold. I'm sorry, maroon and gold. But anyway, you know, they're playing against each other. So, but put Birch back on the South Carolina team. You know, does he help and have a big year? Put Edwin back there. He's probably starting at defensive end. Those are probably your 2 starting defensive ends. One's at Florida State and one's at Oregon now. The linebackers have been okay. Debo Williams is like the 3rd leading tackler in the SEC. He's closing in on 100 tackles. I think he's around 94, 95. That's like number 3 in the SEC. But, they're thin there. They're not very fast at linebacker. And their secondary has not been as good this year compared to last year. You lose 2 NFL corners. Your safeties haven't been as good. So I don't know. Is it on him? Is it the personnel? Have they got more players coming in that will improve the defense for next year? Personally, I don't think you make a change. I don't think Shane Beamer will make a change. He never fired Satterfield. Now, the departure to Nebraska, did that work as he might have wanted it? Who knows? But he never fired him. So I don't think he's going to fire Clayton White either. I think one of the strengths of Beamer is loyalty. Loyal to him, and he's loyal back to you. And I just think he believes they can fix it. They can fix whatever problem they have on defense.
I think you're probably right. The one thing, and by the way, I looked it up. It's cardinal and gold. I'm sorry, not maroon. Evidently, there's a difference at Southern Cal. But the one thing that's probably going to heat up those message boards is the fact that Zach Arnett is known for defense, and now he's available.
True. But there's going to be a lot of coaches available. Jimbo Fisher's available. You want an offensive coordinator? Here's the other thing, though. Dowell Loggins. Does he get a call from Sam Pittman at Arkansas trying to bring him back to his alma mater? Be back after the break. Zach Willis coming up.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Some clouds this evening, but we'll stay dry. Low temp dips down to 41 tomorrow. The clouds stick around. We'll have more clouds than sunshine and a high temp of 67. Dry until Thursday or Friday with a nice weekend shaped up with temps in the low 70s and mostly sunny skies. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Hey, it's Jay with the Melting Pot. So our customers have spoken, and we are now open at noon on Saturday. And if your favorite team is really good, they're going to be playing primetime at night. So here's a great option. You won't miss out on your fondue when your special occasion falls on game day. So come in for all 4 courses of fondue, or just cheese and chocolate, or just chocolate. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard, Columbia. The Melting Pot, Columbia's favorite special occasion restaurant.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting California Governor Gavin Newsom says arson is likely the cause of a massive fire that indefinitely closed a vital section of Interstate 10 in Los Angeles. Engineers have been assessing the situation Monday. The freeway is used by 300,000 vehicles daily, and the closure is expected to be felt well beyond the city, including possibly slowing the transport of goods from the twin ports of LA and Long Beach. The Republican Party's once crowded 2024 presidential primary field has suddenly shrunk to just a handful of viable candidates, but it's unclear if the GOP is any closer to coalescing behind a clear alternative to former President Donald Trump. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 54 points. The NASDAQ dropped 30. More details at srnnews.com.
I sure like to brag about good local businesses. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning is a great local biz. Josh and his team stress customer service as their top priority. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning came out to my house. I had a toilet that wasn't working right, a garbage disposal that died. They came out right on time, told me everything they were going to do, and explained the price of each repair before even bringing in the tools. I knew exactly what I was getting and exactly what it would cost. Their prices are fair, their team is courteous and professional, plus they did a great job fixing what needed fixing in my home. I am very careful about making any recommendations, and I'm thrilled and confident to suggest you call Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning for any plumbing needs. If it's a repair or to replace something, if it's that tankless water heater that you've always wanted to give you that endless hot water and save you some money. They unclog drain and sewer lines and so much more. Online, you'll find them at franklinplumbing.sc.com, or just give Josh and those great folks a phone call, 799-2222. That's 799-2222, and tell them you heard about them from here at The Point.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured, by the NCUA.
Hey, honey, I know you're taking some meds for cholesterol. I was reading that if you're on these medicines, you should also be taking some CoQ10.
Actually, our pharmacist mentioned that to me already. He called me the other day and we went through each of my medications together.
Really? He called you?
Yeah, he asked if I was having any side effects, recommended supplements that could help me, and let me know the risk of mixing certain drugs.
Wow. I'm happy to know that True Pharmacy is thinking about us.
True Pharmacy, 1628 Charleston Highway, 3217 Divine Street, or visit truerxsc.com.
Have you fallen behind on your taxes and might be facing IRS penalties? Have wage garnishments, levies, or liens? Have unfiled tax returns? You want someone local and qualified. Don't fall for those national spots. Meet with me, Teresa, at Capital City Professional Services, and let me help you through your tax maze. I can help with all your tax resolution issues. There are options to get you back on track. Call Capital City Professional Services, 400-8683. That's 400-8683.
Hey, it's Jay with the Cigar Militia, Columbia's premium cigar store. Have you noticed the change in weather? Some people call it fall. We call it cigar smoking season. Or better yet, it's football weather. Come in and check out our humidor and do what I do and get your go-to stick or try something new. We've got an awesome staff willing to walk you through and help you find your new favorite. And besides, you're going to need some celebration cigars for when your favorite team wins the big game. The Cigar Militia, 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard.
All right, Gamecocks 11-0 run over the last 2:08. They've opened up a 22-14 lead on VMI, and Michi Johnson's leading the Gamecocks with 7. They've warmed up to 32%, holding VMI to 26%. Zach Willis in just a moment here on the Sports Talk. Well, the weather has turned just a little. You know what? It just makes you want to think about next spring and summer. And that makes me want to think about getting to the beach. And when I think about getting to the beach, I think about Jimmy Smith at James Smith Real Estate and Paulie'sVacationRentals.com. And that phone number, 843-237-4246. Just give Jimmy a call. You'll talk to him or a member of his staff. Tell him what you're looking for, when you need it, and they'll take it from there. They'll find exactly what you need, the perfect fit for you and your family, down at one of the beautiful beaches there at Murrells Inlet and Pawleys Island and Litchfield and up near Georgetown, over near Garden City, down near Surfside. You name it, they can find it for you. If you want to buy property as well, that's your answer too. Jimmy Smith, James Smith Real Estate, 843-237-4246, Paulie's VacationRentals.com. All right, 2 big wins over the weekend, solid wins, dominating wins for USC and Clemson to the naked eye. Not a whole lot to complain about, but that's why we bring in Coach Zach Willis. 1st and 10 with Zach Willis on a Monday night because he looks at things with not a naked eye. He looks at things more critically. He might have some things to discuss. Welcome in, Coach. How are you?
Doing good, Phil. How you doing?
We're doing great. We're doing great. Tough time of year now. I guess it gets earlier and earlier. Tough time of year for coaches in that, I mean, yeah, most of them are fine, going to make a ton of money. Even those that get fired are going to make a ton of money. But you got head coaches being fired, and then you got head coaches trying to save their jobs by firing coordinators to take the heat off of them, at least for another season. So it's kind of a tough time in that profession.
You know, the world has changed a lot since I got into coaching. It used to be viewed as a fraternity, and as the money grew and the notoriety grew, it's kind of like Hollywood now. You got some really great people, and you got some people with no character at all. And if you're a parent out there and you have a son getting recruited, you better pay really close attention to what they tell you and do your research before you send your son off or daughter, depending on what sport it is. to play college ball. It's a real snake pit now, Phil, to be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's go to the games. And South Carolina Vanderbilt. Gamecocks kind of beat Vanderbilt the way a team should beat Vanderbilt these days. And South Carolina took care of their business and plenty of offense, and defense didn't have too many problems. And what did you think? And what about these 2 weeks? Do you think these 2 wins they have helped the Gamecocks to fix some things heading into the 2 biggest games of the season for them?
I think it definitely has. Phil. I don't think that you would tell me better if they came out of it, healthy. That would be the only really negative things that somebody really was critical to them. But Shane Beamer has shown, at least to me, the ability to rally this team time after time after time, get them to play hard. They rarely lose games. The Florida game might be the exception this year, a game they should have won that got away from them. But Florida's not a horrible football team either. Vanderbilt's probably the least talented SEC. I told you this, SEC talent-wise, I've ever seen an SEC team be. They have some definite limitations, but South Carolina did exactly what they should have done. They went out and had a big day on both sides of the ball and did a fantastic and scored on special teams. I mean, of course, that's nothing new, but they're a team that does what they need to do. In this Kentucky game, to me, is two very evenly matched teams going at it in Columbia.
Yeah, you're right there in Kentucky. Disappointing season for them. I mean, their bar had gone up over the last year, and they'd had some nice wins, but not this year. They got beat by Georgia. They got hammered by Alabama. I guess really no shame there. Anyway, it hasn't been the kind of year that they were expecting. The quarterback Leary, the transfer from NC State, I don't know if he is kind of a step down for them at quarterback compared to what they've had recently. Ray Davis certainly gives them a nice threat there at running back, but of course Alabama snuffed out their running game Saturday.
Well, the mismatch up front, Alabama, Georgia are 2 just elite level teams that, when you watch them play up front, it's like watching a clinic tape, a highlight reel on almost every play. And it'll be great to watch them most likely play each other in the SEC championship game. That'll be one heck of a game. But, Kentucky, Devin Leary's not – and this is a nuanced thing, but he did not learn the system. The system takes longer to learn at Kentucky than it does other places. And he look what Levis has done in the pros. I mean, he was beat up and banged up last year and still had a great year by Kentucky standards for sure. But he's a first-round draft pick, and he showed in the NFL that he's legit. And they miss him. Leary should have stayed in Raleigh. He had it made there. He'd been All-American there. But people don't understand. You have to learn the concept of the plays themselves, and then you got to go out there under live fire, taking an ACC quarterback and putting him in an SEC league. And you got to adjust because there's a difference in speed, of a Wake Forest versus somebody like Georgia or LSU. And even South Carolina, there's a speed differential, and it's not a huge one until you get to the elite teams. But Kentucky's got a tough schedule. I think they'll get things righted, but it ought to be a really good game in Columbia. I'm hoping, obviously, Carolina's ready, and I believe Shane Beamer will have them ready. It seems to me like they're pretty consistent on coming out, and I don't see them giving up, and that's a real big deal, especially this time of year. I don't think Kentucky and South Carolina kind of mirrored images, except the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer Rattler has learned the system. They've opened it up, and they're letting him go now. And if the receivers, honestly, I didn't know this stat, but they were talking about on the broadcast, in the losses South Carolina's had, they've had 21 drop passes. And they had none in their wins until the other day, and they dropped 3 or 4. Now, it was raining, to be fair to everybody. In that regard. And 1 or 2 they called drops, I would say were maybe not really thrown that well, but that's an interesting stat for the folks who like that kind of stuff. But it ought to be an interesting game. And I think, again, Kentucky's got some strong players, but they're definitely beatable in South Carolina. This is a must-win, as they all are from here on out.
Let's go to Clemson and handle Georgia Tech. Again, Georgia Tech came in thinking they could make some noise, but that Clemson defense got after them and really took it to Georgia Tech. The quarterback, King, he had no chance. He had no chance back there, except for busting a couple of runs up the middle. Surprisingly, they got some good blocking. They busted a couple of runs. Maybe Clemson missed some fits or some linebackers were out of place. I don't know exactly what the deal was. Otherwise, it was nothing for Georgia Tech. I mean, they had 100 yards of offense going into the fourth quarter. Is Clemson rounding into shape here as we go down to the last two games?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt, Phil. And, you know, we talked about it. I think both teams look to be. Now, we'll know a whole lot more. Clemson's got North Carolina at home. North Carolina, I watched that ball game. Duke and Carolina are rivals in basketball, but they play some good football against each other. And I watched that one, and they've got Drake May. We'll see exactly how good Clemson is against a great quarterback when they play this coming week. But from everything we saw, 4 interceptions, they scored about every way you could score on offense. I mean, it's the best they've looked. Them beat Notre Dame and following up with this. Usually, after they have a big win, when they were rolling, they maybe squeak by Georgia Tech next week. 10 or 12 pointer, sometimes less victory at home. But they came out rolling from the start and just blew them off the field. And like you said, I mean, they made Georgia Tech look like a 1 or 2 win team. You wouldn't believe they had a winning record coming in based on how bad Clemson, especially their defense. I mean, they just absolutely dominated. You couldn't have said it better. They weren't flawless, but they were close to it. They did have some run fits where they missed some gaps. But Georgia Tech had a good football team. It didn't show. They've had some big wins this year, and I think they're going to be tough in the future. But, man, when the Tigers are rolling, they're hard to beat. If you go back and look at their losses, I mean, they were taking the fourth-ranked team in the country into double overtime. This team is just having to learn how to win, and I think they're learning. I think, as you put it, they're feeling it now. And when they start feeling things, they're very, very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Zach Willis joining us here on First and 10, still living on his buyout up in Kentucky. Coach, we want to talk about offensive line play, something you know quite a bit about. So South Carolina, they finally got the same 5 offensive linemen to start in consecutive weeks, and I thought that line play looked a lot better. So you know better than most. If Trey Jones, one of their 5 best linemen, comes back, do you have sake? So what's more important, the best 5 guys or the continuity of keeping the 5 you've got playing well together?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, it's continuity. And that's a great, great question. We had times in my coaching years where the senior offensive lineman would come in to me, guys were all, and say, Coach, we need to play this guy that's maybe second or third team at guard because he knows what he's doing. The freshman or sophomore we got in there doesn't know all the plays, and he's not sure of himself. And it's adjustments most people know on the SEC level, the big time level, we see everything. You don't always see that at some schools. But again, fan base is so astute, the media is so good in South Carolina, football-wise, the SEC period. It's so analyzed that, you get to see on the inside. And I'll be very interested to see who they play, who they start, because we call it chemistry. They obviously had chemistry. They looked in sync. Phil, we were talking about that a week ago. They looked like an SEC offensive line. That part of it was probably the team they were playing. But I mean, we've seen them give up sacks to those kinds of teams before and barely win games and even lose years ago to people they absolutely should not have lost to. So I would stick with what was working for me and have Jones ready to go. Obviously, he's going to play too, because you want to develop depth. If you can ever get depth at the offensive line position, you can vie for a championship. That's what Clemson did when they were really rolling. They had 8 or 10 guys that could play up front. Coach Caldwell was their coach at that time, and he'd been one of my coaches in college, and we talked about it. They had 8 guys. They felt like one was good as the other, and that's when they were winning national championships, not just ACC. So continuity, if the offensive line coach has got his way, that's what he wants. He wants that chemistry, that continuity, because it's a team game, and they work better as a team.
Coach, as always, it's great hearing from you. Enjoy the week, getting ready for the big 2 weekends coming up. Important games for South Carolina, Clemson. Plus, we'll look ahead to Furman and their playoffs coming up. And we got Division II playoffs with Benedict and Limestone. So we still got some good football ahead. We will talk to you next Monday.
You guys have a great one, and congratulations to everybody winning this week.
Thank you very much. That's the
Thanks,
coach, Zach Willis. Yeah, that buyout he had from, let's see, Newberry and Union College in Kentucky. Yeah, that set him up for life, I would say. I don't know. I don't think Jimmy Sexton is his agent or anything like that. I'm not even sure Zach had an agent back in the day. Actually, I think he did have an agent, and his name escapes me. I think I knew his agent. And I think he was from Orangeburg, if my memory is correct. All right, we got to run to the break and come back with the recruiting update for tonight. 51 seconds to go in the half. South Carolina is leading VMI, and it's 41-29 Gamecocks. That little run they had has kind of put them in decent shape. Citadel leading Presbyterian 20-19. About 7:49 to play. Florida State over Central Michigan, 37-24. Miami leads FIU, 38-34. Be back.
Hi, this is Billy Downer from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Are you looking for a safe place to shoot your rifle or handgun? Did you know that the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources operates 4 manned ranges across the state in Pickens County, Spartanburg County, Richland County, and Charleston County? For more information on our public ranges, visit dnr.sc.gov/shooting.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
George Bryant for Tsunami Bar Sports, our inventor, David Abernathy, has always said Tsunami Bar technology allows us to take the training to the grass. Now I know through my sport of golf that natural agility can be converted to athletic ability. And why is this, Tsunami Robbie?
Transferring the training to the grass. This may be the most undervalued characteristic of the Tsunami flexible bar technology. The Tsunami bar action loads and unloads at the concentric and eccentric transition points. This is what we call reversal forces. And the Tsunami bar is the only bar and training device that I know of that can train these reversal forces adequately at speed.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's CORBETT. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Investing can be like a puzzle. There's so many pieces to consider, and it can be hard to know where to start. But with the right guidance, you can put the pieces together to create a winning strategy. That's where Founders Investment Services come in. Our team of financial advisors can help you navigate the complexities of investing and create a personalized plan that fits your goals and risk tolerance. We'll work with you to identify the pieces of your puzzle and how they fit into your financial future. Call 866-739-7064 or visit foundersfcuinvestments.com to learn more about how we can help you take the first step towards reaching your financial goals. Securities offered through LPL Financial.
The lottery is not about getting rich. It's about helping people, and it always has been. The lottery is what helped raise the Great Wall of China, build the roads of Rome, and today in South Carolina, it's what generates millions of dollars each year for scholarships like the SC Hope, Life, and Palmetto Fellows. The South Carolina Education Lottery is investing in you. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou to learn more.
Farm Bureau Insurance's agricultural roots and ties to South Carolina farmers have shaped the company's culture and work ethic, providing a unique customer experience. Customers are treated like people, not policies. Now, while other insurance companies may have a one-size-fits-all approach to handling customers, we believe you need to be valued and treated right. Our claims professionals work until the job is done, and our agents still believe in the commitment that comes with a handshake. Call Buddy Bridges in Clinton and Lawrence at 864-923-2174 for all of your auto, home, and life insurance needs.
All right, recruiting time here on Sports Talk, brought to you by our good friends over at Seawells, the best food caterers in the world. Just talking about Johnson and Wales and how they're known for their cooking. You know, they had to stop that game with Charleston Southern at the 8-minute mark so they could go flip their souffles. Boom, boom. Anyway, I thought it was funny. Nobody else does. Once again, Seawells, they know when to flip their souffles because nobody cooks a souffle like the folks at Seawells, even better than Johnson. More at SeawellsCateringSC.com or call them at 803-771-7385. And Pat is anxious to tell you about the menu at the luncheon buffet this week.
Oh, it's going to be a good one, too. And, Corn, I'm excited about tomorrow. I think you will be, too. Bacon-wrapped meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Along with southern fried chicken. And then fried fish nuggets, which are outstanding. Has a good little sauce and, of course, gravy. Wednesday, we're celebrating a little bit of Thanksgiving. Carved turkey with cornbread dressing, along with southern fried chicken. Ooh, chicken pot pie. Then we'll give you the rest of the week here in a couple days. But they as in Seawells, will be open all 5 days of this week. No days off for private events. Make sure to get in there. It's a good menu all week long. And then don't forget all your local farm fresh veggies, salad bar, and dessert.
Sounds delish. Let's go to defensive end Cameron Fountain, 6'6", 237, Atlanta. Been committed to Southern Cal, but it looks like South Carolina's got a great chance to turn him from what he's telling us. He's been talking regularly to defensive ends coach Sterling Lucas, and he said he feels good about South Carolina. He likes both schools. Made an official of Southern Cal in early June before he committed, and is going to visit. He's planning on it. If he can get everything nailed down, he plans to visit South Carolina for the Kentucky game unofficially and then back for Clemson officially. He was also at USC for the Florida game. So very familiar with everything going on there. He said it's a high chance that he will switch to the Gamecocks. Very family-based, feels good to him down there, the environment. So we shall see if that's going to happen over the next couple of weekends. He will be an early signee and enrollee. Tight end offensive tackle Luke Chilton, 6'7", 230. Frostburg State in Maryland has entered the portal, John, with 4 years of eligibility after redshirting. He's a native of Fredericksburg, Virginia. He visited USC unofficially last year. He tells us he's been in touch with recruiter Jody Wright, and a visit is in the works, and they like him as a tackle prospect. One of Clemson's remaining targets for the offensive line for this year made an official over the weekend. Offensive guard Elijah Thurman of Hinesville, Georgia, scheduled for USC December 8th. He's also had Duke, Central Florida, LSU, Missouri, Georgia Tech, and Florida on his short list. Also making an official to Clemson over the weekend was linebacker Bradley Shaw of Hoover, Alabama. This according to Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated. Shaw also has made officials to Arkansas with Notre Dame, and Auburn has also been in play with him too. 2025 receiver Abijah Webb of Pendleton, 25 receiver C.J. Wiley of Alpharetta, Georgia, 26 running back Sean Austin of Painesville, Ohio, 26 offensive tackle Desmond Green of Timberland, and 26 defensive end Luke Waffley of Middletown, New Jersey, also were at Clemson unofficially Saturday. One-time Clemson target tight end Ryan G. of Alpharetta, Georgia, committed to Auburn. Of course, Clemson has their 25 commitment at tight end. Running back Anthony Carey of Tampa was at USC unofficially on Saturday. He's been a Michigan State commitment, but he's still shopping around. Others at USC Saturday, or those who plan to be, 25 receiver Boykin Bickley of Dutch Fork, 25 defensive tackle Sterling Sanders of Blythewood, 26 defensive end Ahmad Scott of Greenwood, 26 quarterback Bryson Riggins of Seal, Alabama. USC offered 25 cornerback Christopher Hatfield of Ludowici, Georgia, and 26 defensive back Jordan Thomas of West Orange, New Jersey. 26 receiver Jordan Gidron of Ridgeview, offered by Florida State on a visit there over the weekend. 26 defensive back receiver Xavier Currents of South Point was at Florida State Saturday. Irmo safety Isaiah McClary, PWO offer from USC. Citadel basketball signed 6'10 center Graham Eikenberry of Barrington, Rhode Island. USC women's target Kennedy Smith committed to Southern Cal. There you go. That's recruiting for you here on Sports Talk. 41-33 at the break.
A little more juicy recruiting report than you've been able to have for us the last several weeks.
Well, it's some of Pat's gravy was slopped on there, so made it just a little more juicy.
Phil, I saw that Winston Watkins, Sammy Watkins' cousin, decommitted over the weekend from Colorado.
Yeah.
South Carolina's going after him. You think any chance the Gamecocks or maybe Clemson tries to sway him?
I mean, there's always a chance. If you're out there and you're available, there's got to be a chance. Okay, Talking Tuesday coming up tomorrow. Chris, enjoy Clemson.
Thank you, sir. I shall.
I'll have the Gamecocks. Smitty, thank you, sir. You have a wonderful day tomorrow. And thank you, Pat. Everybody have a great night. See you tomorrow.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.
WQXL.